Hi.
Hi,
Nice to meet you.
I'm Nikki.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Good morning, Judge and fellow participants. Before we dive into our presentation, I would like to lay some bases for what we are doing here. We are MB Consulting. My name is Pramiti Verma. I'm the lead research consultant.
Hi, I'm Lucy. I'm the lead ethics consultant.
Hi, I'm Nikita Payal and I'm lead financial consultant.
We are providing solutions to MGM to be more ethical and more sustainable. Just to give you a little background on MGM, MGM has 31 casinos and resorts worldwide, and 12 of them are in Las Vegas. They generated an annual revenue of $13 billion last year. So I'm ready to go whenever.
Stage is yours.
Good morning, MGM board. I know we threw a lot of legal and financial jargon at you yesterday. Today, the basis of our presentation is going to focus on the ethical aspects. Just to summarize, from yesterday, we analyzed a lot of your data and metrics and realized that you consume and spend significant amount on your energy consumption. Through some more research, we identified 3 areas of opportunity of improvement in this: slot machines, neon lights, and ventilation. We'll talk about them in detail soon. Some ethical and economical concerns of electrical wastage are environmental degradation, especially air quality and threat of lead leakage into the environment, financial concerns for raising prices to our customers, and last but not the least, your personal and social responsibility towards the community. It is very well known that MGM holds itself up to very high ethical standards of business conduct and corporate governance. Our solutions will only help you take a step further in that direction. We at MB Consulting believe that doing less bad is just not enough. We need to do more good. We need to be impact positive. And our solutions will not only help you reduce your carbon footprint, but leave more handprints. So let's dive into the slot machines. MGM currently has 30,000 slot machines that work for 24 hours per day globally. And this leads to a carbon emission of 52 million pounds of carbon into the atmosphere. This number is equivalent to greenhouse gas emissions from 60 million miles driven by an average gasoline-powered vehicle. Some solutions to tackle this problem would be to ensure that the slot machines are minimizing their energy consumption. And this can be done by installing Energy Star certification to all the machines, installing sensors to implement power-saving mode and sleep mode, and to use energy-efficient motors and compressors. All these solutions will help ensure that maximum efficiency is obtained. This is going to lead to a significant reduction in your carbon emission by 15 million pounds. This not only extends beyond the environmental impact to provide better quality services to your customers and better working health conditions for our employees, but it also saves significant funds for you. And we know that MGM doesn't just like to do business, they like to do business smartly.
Another opportunity that we have identified is neon tubing. As you are well aware, casinos run 24/7 and consumes huge amount of electricity. Las Vegas Strip alone has 2,000 miles of neon tubing, which is equivalent to the distance from Cleveland to Los Angeles. So, and also the energy consumed by neon tubing is equivalent to 18 million kilowatt hours of energy. And this energy could be utilized to light up 1,800 homes annually. So as a solution, we are recommending to implement LED solutions and replacing the neon lights with LED. LEDs are 60% more efficient than neon tubing, and this could result in a total savings of $24 million. And neon needs to be replaced every 3 years, and this would result in a total maintenance cost saving of after replacing the neon tubing with LED. And I would recommend implementing this solution, as it would not only help in saving the carbon emission that is equivalent to 18 million pounds of CO2, and it will also result in saving the cost. And so as a solution, I recommend doing it, as this will not only save the planet, build a better future, but also save the planet, and the energy could be used to supply the electricity to the homes that currently doesn't have.
Okay, so now we're going to dive into the third solution. So we want to focus on ventilation because that accounts for 60% of all electrical uses, so then that produces a large carbon footprint. So currently MGM generates around 651 million kilowatt hours of electricity, and that produces 532 million pounds of CO2. So we know that we can't really reduce ventilation since smoking is allowed in almost every casino on the LA Strip. So we wanted to identify a solution that allows for renewable energy. And one way we can do that is to implement anaerobic digesters. So this technology allows us to use food waste to transform that into methane gas and other types of biogases to generate electricity. And I know that there is a concern that if we use methane gas, it's bad for the environment. But in actuality, if you contain it properly, there is a positive contribution to the environment since it reduces carbon emissions by 10% compared to leaving food waste on the landfills and having that generate greenhouse gases. So currently, MGM generates around 100,000 tons of food waste, and around half of that is being sent to landfills. But we found out that that ventilation only uses around 5,000 tons of food waste. So with leftover food waste, you can either donate that to other communities, or we can use it to supply other electrical uses for MGM, such as slot machines and lights. So, why does this matter to you? Well, it matters because MGM is going to be the first in the industry to implement the solution, and this will set a precedent for future companies. This also improves brand image, so as people become more interested in sustainability, going pro-green is going to help attract more customers for you. So in addition, all of these solutions combined will yield savings of around $100 million, and companies that adopt ESG indexes, they usually outperform companies who are in the S&P 500. So our solutions address the ethical issues with electrical wastage, and we believe that businesses that focus on ethics is going to drive sustained success. So we want to do good for future generations to come.
So MGM board members, are you ready to take the lead with us by betting on your own house and ensuring that we are not only reducing our carbon footprint, but also leaving more handprints? And remember, the house always wins. Thank you for your time.
All right, next up, Sura Consulting, come on up.
Should we give background?
If you'd like to, yeah.
Okay, sure. So we're Sura Consulting. My name is Sophie, and I'm the lead ethical and legal consultant. And this is Rachel. She is the lead technology consultant, and we are providing sustainable solutions in the fast fashion industry, specifically for Forever 21.
So good morning, Forever 21 Board of Directors, and thank you so much for inviting us back. As my colleague Sophie just did, she introduced us. We are from Sura Consulting. In our previous presentation, we discussed the sustainability issues within your upstream activities within your value chain. We also talked about waste production and the overall lack of transparency within your company. We've developed 3 recommendations that we termed the 3 RTs: re-engineer the tech, reintroduce transparency, and recycle the textiles that we believe will help tackle these ethical sustainable issues. Today, we'll go into more detail about the ethical issues within your upstream activities and how our recommendations will handle that.
Imagine, it's 2075. You look outside your window and there's miles and miles of waste. Waste that came from the overproduction of textiles. Sustainability is defined as a long-term goal to ensure that humanity can safely coexist on Earth over a long period of time. The overproduction of inventory has led to textiles ending up in landfills. Large companies like Forever 21 have an obligation to ensure that future generations are not impacted by a short-term race to the bottom. We believe that Forever 21 is a victim to the fast fashion industry. The global emissions from the fashion industry has not only contributed to pollution and carbon emissions, but has also led to the exploitation of garment workers and large amounts of waste contributing to landfills. However, it can feel like brands like Forever 21 and its consumers are far removed from these effects. But how far removed are we really? We live in the same world. We drink the same water, we use the same land, we use the same natural resources, and we all live on this earth together. So, we have suggested that the large impact on the environment and garment industry outweighs the short-term profits that contribute to the direct stakeholder impact.
Global production waste has been doubling since the early 2000s. 90 million tons of that waste is a result from the fashion industry. In our research, we discovered that your company has about 4.3 billion in unsold inventory sitting within your upstream. From the unsold inventory that's within your upstream, that is going into landfills. When your inventory goes into the landfills, the runoff goes and disrupts communities worldwide by not letting them have clean air, by not letting them have clean water. People across the planet have an innate right to clean air, water, and land. Because of these inefficiencies, your company is not aligned with SDG 12, which ensures sustainable consumption and production process. We understand that you have taken small initiatives on your storefront to help tackle sustainability issues, but that shouldn't all just be on your customers. As a leader within the fast fashion industry, Forever 21 has the advantage of tackling these issues also in your production process. We know that the company has been going through a restructuring process due to filing with bankruptcy in 2019. But from that, you're under new leadership now with CEO Winnie Park, who is really striving a culture change within the organization to become more ethical and sustainable. Our recommendations, the 3 RTs, help support Winnie's vision in making Forever 21 a more ethically sustainable company, but they're also cost effective.
The impact of fast fashion and the culture surrounding fast fashion is difficult to disentangle the origins of. And as a legacy brand, Forever 21 is a victim to this culture. The fierce competition and shrinking margins have allowed the entire industry to overlook the impact on the people and the planet. However, these practices continuing until Earth's resources are depleted is not only environmentally and socially unsustainable, but also financially unsustainable for the brands, Forever 21, its workers, its suppliers, and the global population. Therefore, there must be a commitment to make a change and for brands to become agile in their solutions in order to avoid Earth's demise. Forever 21 can initiate a culture shift internally. For many years, it has been practiced to bypass blame for environmental and social impacts within the supply chain by using third-party suppliers. However, we no longer believe this is possible. Through our research, we've realized trends in legislation and laws that now are holding brands jointly liable for the environmental and social impacts along with their suppliers. Thus, it's important for Forever 21 to get ahead of the curve while remaining authentic in their environmental sustainability.
Our recommendations that we termed the 3 RTs help provide ethically sustainable, cost-effective ways for Forever 21 to become this more authentic brand and pave the way for the fast fashion industry. Through re-engineering the tech, we want you to take your current AI software to help better predict consumer trends to help cut on production waste. With your current AI software, it's more on the consumer side. They have this visual widget where they can go and look at your product catalog and see what your offerings are. However, we want your analytics team to use the built-in dashboard within this AI software to predict these consumer trends so that you can make better purchasing decisions and then lower your inventory, which will then lower production waste. Through reintroducing transparency, this would require Forever 21 to produce a sustainability report with clear goals, KPIs, and objectives. You're currently doing well with what you've laid out on your website, but this report takes it one step further by showing your consumers and your CEO that you're taking these sustainability issues seriously by laying out where you want to be, where you're at, and if you're actually meeting these goals. And through that, you'll gain more trust with your customers and bring back that market share in that brand loyalty, which will then help with our third recommendation, recycle the textiles, which we envision in about 5 years. Forever 21 will start this partnership with CERC, who uses recycled textiles through their patented technology process to bring it back down to that virgin fiber. Through this, Forever 21 is closing the loop with the textile production process. By doing that, Forever 21 will then help with the production process. But our recommendations help provide an ethically sustainable solution. By re-engineering the technology, you're helping cut down on production waste and then lowering what happens in the landfills and helping communities worldwide. Reintroducing transparency really shows that you're aligning with your CEO's new vision to become more ethically sustainable in a kind of toxic industry. And then re-engineering textiles, you're closing the loop and starting to enter that circular economy to help become a more sustainable brand.
In the last few years, Forever 21 has faced important challenges, including filing for bankruptcy, recovering, restructuring, and now repositioning under a new CEO. It's challenging to recover from a fall in market share. And Generation Z, Forever 21's target market, are now choosing competitors between price differentiation or sustainability. Sustainability efforts within the production processes are complex issues, and Forever 21 needs to remain authentic in their solutions. Consumers' high demand is reinforced by the overproduction in fast fashion. And Forever 21's current $4.3 billion worth of unsold inventory will eventually end up in landfills. When it's 2075 rolls around, think of what kind of environment you want your future generations to be living in. Our 3 RTs, re-engineer the technology, reintroduce transparency, and recycle the textiles, provide cost-effective, sustainable solutions to help push Forever 21 into becoming an environmental trendsetter within this industry. Because there is no Planet B.
And next up, 181 Consulting.
All right, thank you so much. We're just going to get into it. So, thank you for having us here. My name's Chelsea. I'm with Jordy and Bobby, and these are my colleagues with 181 Consulting. We are so excited to be here talking to you again, to the board of directors from Moderna, to address some of the ethical issues behind vaccine inequity, because the fact that this was meaningful enough to you to bring us back is really important to us. This is a close personal issue for us. So, the first thing that we have on our minds is that vaccine access is an issue that is closely and intimately related to the UN Sustainability Goal number 3 for good health and well-being globally. We know that Moderna has a role to play in this achievement of this goal that no other company is currently able to manage. As it is right now, global access to vaccines is highly differential based on wealth of the country that is in question. So wealthy countries have a much easier time obtaining vaccines and vaccinating their populations against deadly diseases. When you look at lower income countries, there's often a struggle there. So Jordy's going to walk us through a little bit of what that ethical framework looks like regarding vaccine equity.
Thank you, Chelsea. So there's no denying that vaccinations are such a powerful tool when it comes to global health and well-being of all citizens. However, vaccine inequity is a fundamental ethical issue. To put that into context, when we look at the COVID-19 pandemic, 80% of the world's population currently lives in low and middle income countries, but yet only 16% of COVID-19 vaccination doses have gone to those people. So it's very clear that there's a wide gap here, and that is a problem. Ethically, ethics would dictate that essential medicines, such as vaccinations, be distributed evenly and based on risk. But that's not what we see. We see that divide happening because of economic power and status, and it's just ethically indefensible, and that's really the bottom line. When we relate that back to Sustainable Development Goal number 3, which is ensuring health and well-being for all citizens, we know that vaccine inequity is a direct challenge to achieving that goal. And in addition to that goal, vaccine inequity also widens poverty gaps in these countries, and it also just contributes to increase in inequity between low and income countries across the globe, which is just putting us farther away from where we're trying to be today. And realistically, something that is really powerful is that it's been known that vaccinations are so powerful, they're actually known to rival primary education as a social development tool.
So we know there's a systemic issue with access to vaccines and the ethical components that are a part of that. What role does Moderna play in that? Well, Moderna is a major player in the pharmaceutical industry right now, and the vaccines that Moderna is currently working on bringing to market have the potential to have an incredible global impact on health. We have an example of what this has looked like for Moderna in the past, because Spikevax, the COVID-19 vaccine that Moderna produced and brought to market in record times, broke some records, but unfortunately we know 4 out of 5 doses of Spikevax were destined for wealthy countries. And that's part of the process that's happening within the pharmaceutical industry today. So if we're going to make a change, Moderna is going to have to be a leader to reach that ability. When we talk about motivations for making that change, it's really important to look at some of those tangible consequences of the system that exists today. And Laura's got some information for us about what that actually did look like over the past few years.
Yeah, so we've set up that the COVID vaccination schedule was very unequitable, favoring those high-income countries. If we would have been able to allocate those equitably by need and risk, we would have been able to avoid $9 trillion in global economic damage, save 1.5 million lives, and 150 million people were pushed into poverty. That all could have been avoided with a more ethical allocation strategy. Additionally, we know that those mutations, like Omicron, really thrive in under-vaccinated and unvaccinated populations. That just adds longevity and complexity to these global issues. The nature of infectious disease itself knows no borders. We know that no one is safe until everyone is safe. And we know there has to be a better way.
So why are we here talking to you? Well, Moderna, we know, is the right partner to address some of these issues, because you've already made some statements about vaccine inequity and tried to take some steps towards remedying it. Unfortunately, currently those initiatives are falling short. Moderna has announced that you will not be enforcing patents in some of the lower income countries, specifically for COVID-19 technologies, which is a nice step. Unfortunately, those countries do not currently have the knowledge to actually produce and distribute a vaccine, so we haven't reached a distribution process there. Alternatively, on the other hand, Moderna, you've also started an mRNA access program, which has been really important for helping independent researchers get started working with mRNA technologies. However, Moderna holds the patents around these mRNA technologies in many countries and is restricting the use of the results of the research so that these independent researchers aren't able to bring their products to market either. Either way, we're looking at a partnership that is not producing results, and we know that it needs to change. Patents, though, are an ethically confusing and convoluted system. So Jordy actually has a little more information for us about what the ethical framework looks like around patents.
Yeah, so of course there's an upside to patents. They incentivize innovation and ethically life-changing technologies such as mRNA. So there is a good there. But there's a downside to patents. When they are misused, it's ethically indefensible. And that's what we saw, unfortunately, throughout the pandemic. So there's actually production capacity across the globe in a lot of these low-income countries, such as Egypt, South Korea, that have the capacity to produce and distribute mRNA technologies. But their biggest barrier remains to be patents that are held by companies such as Moderna. And so we need to be able to help them get past those patents and find a path to, once we look past COVID, there's other mRNA solutions coming down the pipeline, and we're going to see similar challenges if we can't get that technology to these distribution centers and mass produce. When we talk about patents in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic, we know that the World Health Organization actually was pushing for patent waivers and trying to get that IP to those production facilities. They were also pushing for knowledge sharing. but obstructed patent waivers were a direct cause of delayed vaccine access, which did result in 1.5 million excess deaths. So we do need to find a path, and we believe you have a valuable role to play here in helping get that knowledge to the right people to maximize vaccination production and distribution.
So Moderna's at a crossroads. Right now, there's a big ethical decision on your plate, and as the board of directors, you're going to be looking for a strategy to guide Moderna through the future. If you continue with the existing standard pharmaceutical industry's distribution policies, you will be contributing to widening that inequity gap as we go forward. We know Moderna is going to be one of the major players in vaccines coming out for things like HIV, RSV, CMV. There's so many things that you have in your pipeline that have an incredible global impact, and specifically in lower income countries, you're going to have a lot of people who need your products. In order to actually shift the lens and move the distribution model to something that is more equitable, it's going to take a change in Moderna's distribution strategies, and this is something that will reorient Moderna to meeting your stated company mission. So Moderna has a new company mission, which is to provide the greatest possible impact for people for mRNA medicines. So with that in mind, we know that we want to recommend a switch to a licensing model whereby Moderna sources producers around the globe that are able to produce local production capacity and start distributing those products where Moderna can't currently reach with their own capacity. So Laura's going to talk to us a little bit about what the ethics would look like there.
Yeah. So if we look at one example in your pipeline, HIV is an excellent candidate that's well in phase 1. Looks like it's going to have great success. However, we know that need is primarily in Southern Africa. We have excellent partners that have been identified there through the World Health Organization. Afrigen is a perfect example of someone who can be a fierce competitor or an incredible partner for us. They can license the technology, we can increase royalties on that, and we also know there's a huge sponsorship opportunity. The US government spends $28 billion on HIV alone every year. So we know those high-income countries can sponsor this to, again, ensure that the whole world is safe, not just one country, not just one region, and really help bring equity. That will not diminish returns for your shareholders. We can do this profitably, we can do this productively and ethically.
So if Moderna can seize this opportunity, this financial opportunity, but also an ethical opportunity to make a difference, you're transforming your company and you're creating leadership for the entire pharmaceutical industry going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next up, Top PRISM Solutions. Remember that?
Esteemed Board of Directors at Amazon, good morning. My name is Gerard and I'm the Policy Consultant for Top PRISM Solutions. And I'm joined by my colleagues, Marvelyn, the Legal Consultant, and Alva, the Financial Consultant. The problem that we are talking today is of the e-waste that is generated by massive amounts by Amazon, especially by its data centers in AWS, and how it can be reutilized in a circular economy, the solution that we propose, and we call it sustainable hardware ecosystem, a circular economy that connects the customers and the data centers back to the recycling plants back to the manufacturers and to the data centers. So it's a closed loop supply chain in which we talked about how all components of the supply chain are connected to each other. But the point that I'm today going to make is, why is this the ethical thing to do? It's ethical because sustainability is not a buzzword. It's a fundamental value that reflects the respect we have for the earth and its ecosystem and the biodiversity. We have a responsibility not just towards us, but also to the future generations that come after us. And we need to ensure that we give them the planet that is living, healthy, and abundant. So how does Amazon fit into all of this equation? Amazon is a market leader. It has the highest market cap in the industry. So it is at a position of power, and that position of power comes with a great deal of responsibility. So this makes it an ethical question for Amazon to play its part to solve the problems which it helped create in the first place. So what are the problems? For example, all the customers that buy from Amazon They take electronics, use it for certain years, and discard it after a few years. The Amazon's data center, AWS. AWS is consuming a lot of hardware. 80,000 computers in just one data center, and there are 2,500 data centers just in the US. And Amazon is in all across the world. So that's a massive amount of data centers, massive amounts of electronic waste, which is going to landfills every single year. So how does Amazon play its part here? Amazon needs to realize that the impact that Amazon will make will be higher than any of the other competitors that makes the same thing and is part of the problem. Being an industry leader, whenever you take a step, the effects of that step are felt by across the market. So that is why it's an ethical problem, and it's the ethical thing that Amazon should do and play its part. That leads me to a second point, which is being an industry leader, you are at a position in which you set an example. You set an example for other competitors, for other smaller companies to follow in your footsteps, who aspire to be like you in the coming years. So you set them an example that, look, you can do business, you can make a lot of money, and you can still care about the planet. You have a wide range of customer base, you have a wide range of suppliers, and whatever actions you take, it's going to do a ripple effect across the market. So you take one good action, it's going to have a ripple effect in all the other suppliers as well. The last part is the solution. It's a sustainable ecosystem that we are suggesting, and there are multiple steps to that. Now my colleagues will talk about how each step is the ethical thing that Amazon should be doing.
So the first step of our solution, our sustainable hardware ecosystem, is picking up e-waste from our customers at the doorstep. So Amazon, it is the biggest e-commerce in the entire nation. So they have significant role at buying and selling electronic products that easily can be replaced and recycled. So it is their legal obligation to minimize e-waste. And one way to do it is to use their existing delivery network. It is essential to promote sustainability by asking contribution to the customers. So we urge them to use the excellent supply chain and also their excellent accessibility to achieve this goal. And the second step of our sustainable ecosystem hardware, it is to use recycling. E-waste is our biggest contributor that harm the environment and also harm us. Only 15% of 60 million tons of waste that got recycled per year. So it also damages our health in the long term. In some research, it said it can damage our lungs function and even change our DNA mutation and also lead to negative birth outcomes. So partnering with local recycling companies, it raised awareness to the importance of recycling and also reducing e-waste in a great amount of waste. And so this partnership demonstrates our commitment, our Amazon commitment, that they are responsible to the environment and also ethical business practices when they apply this to their business operations.
The third step of our sustainable hardware ecosystem is to manufacture easily recyclable hardware. The current situation is that only a small amount of e-waste can be recycled. This is because the current hardware designs are hard to be disabled, and because they are hard to be disabled, the hardware manufacturers usually seek a new resource extraction to produce the electronic devices, which leading to a more energy consumption. Therefore, we urge the company to support the hardware manufacturers to develop a more sustainable and easily recyclable hardware. The last step of our sustainable hardware, the last step of our sustainable hardware ecosystem is to bring our recycled materials and easily recyclable hardware back to our AWS data centers. By doing this, we will fully utilize the hardware in the data centers, which close the loop of our ecosystem and bring the impacts bring the positive impacts to our society. The goal of our sustainable hardware ecosystem is not only set your company as a market leader in data centers. Your company will also drive changes across the industry, especially among those other data centers to follow your suit. Therefore, you will not only be the one to push improvement across the data centers. You will also be the one that bring the impact to our society and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Common Ground Consulting.
So before we begin, if you don't mind, we'll just do a quick introduction.
Please do.
Great.
Yeah.
To set the tone, we've been asked by the Board of Directors and family of Lavazza Coffee to come back today and elaborate a little bit further on the ethical dimension of our proposal. We're Common Ground Consulting. I'm Leanne. I'm the Sustainability Program Coordinator.
Hi, I'm Kaushal Patel. I'm Business Analyst and Financial Consultant.
I'm Elliot Kadasbadi, a Sustainability Consultant and Agricultural Advisor.
And at Common Ground, we focus on the challenges of the coffee industry and helping businesses adapt to these changes. And you'll see this is a passion of ours, and this is what we talk about every day. We're ready to start. So thank you again, the Lavazza family, for asking us to come back today. Although we don't have a formal PowerPoint to share with you, we would like to elaborate further on our ethical proposal. We'll start by sharing an overview of the industry and how it has changed over time. And then we'd like to dig deeper on the sustainability challenges and how these have led to 3 key sustainability ethical issues. We'll also take you through our recommendation, which has 2 parts: direct contracts with farmers and implementing agroforestry techniques for farmers. So let's get started. Coffee is the second most traded commodity in the world. It employs 25 million farmers. And for thousands of years, it has been grown in the shade with traditional farming practices and multi-generational families. But in the 1970s, it really shifted to a monoculture, growing in the shade and focused primarily on high yields. The demand for coffee prompted farmers to need to produce more with the few resources that they had. And the competition and low prices forced them to focus more on the quantity versus the quality of their product. And this has posed several sustainability challenges that we'd like to take you through a little bit further.
For sure. As you mentioned, that the demand for the coffee is growing year over year, but we have limited farmlands. This forced farmers to use more pesticides, chemical fertilizers, more water to produce more coffee yields just to meet that demand. And sometimes they have to change their farming methods as well just to develop their crops. And all of this has environmental impacts. Some of them have gone to the extreme step of the deforestation to have more land to grow the coffee. And as per one statistics, by year 2050, there will be 50% less land available due to climate changes. And this will have a huge impact on future generation of the farmers because they don't have source to earn their livelihoods. This has more issue in it. Elliot, would you like to throw some light to it?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like an environmental issue, but it's really an ethics issue. When we think about the life of the farmer, he has a human right, based on the UN Charter of Human Rights, to access to an adequate standard of life. With his diminishing revenue, he's in that cycle of poverty. The profit is even to the point where he's actually losing money by growing this crop. It's gotten that drastic. You walk into a cafe, you buy a cup of coffee, it's €2.70. That farmer gets between 7 and 11 cents, and that's with fair trade pricing. this cycle of poverty, it needs to be addressed. And this ethical approach is the way to do that. And moreover, as you talked about, this depleting farmland, if this farmer's land is threatened, he actually loses all his ability to earn an income. So there really needs to be something done. There's also a couple other ethical challenges. You need a right to a safe workplace. These chemicals we're talking about, they have lasting effects on the farmers and their children. Which brings me to my third point, which is really tragic. About 20% of children in coffee-growing countries have to be pulled out and work on the family farm just to make ends meet, which violates their right to education. And it just contributes to that cycle of poverty.
And there are some legal issues also associated with that ethical issues, and those legal issues can create a huge business impact. Let's see the case of Nestle. They faced the legal issue related to child labor in Ivory Coast in year 2000. And what was the implication? They ended up paying some fines in terms of financial damage to that company, but there is also reputational damage to that company as well. And they have to put lots of effort and time to regain that consumer trust and brand loyalty. So the ethical issue cannot just create a financial damage to your company, but it also have a reputational damage, which is much more severe business impact than just the financial cost.
Yeah, so we really see, obviously, the environment and the coffee industry have led to devastating ethical challenges for these farmers. Their rights have been taken away, and it has caused extreme harm. So what is Lavazza going to do? How are we going to position Lavazza as a leader in being able to help these farmers see a future and a livelihood as we deal with these changes in the industry?
And that's why I love our recommendation we proposed yesterday. It really addresses those ethical issues we touched on earlier. The access to an adequate standard of life, access to education, and access to safe work. We're going to create direct contracts with these farmers. We're going to build in a cost-plus model, and that's going to give them a standard of life that gives them a living wage. And that's going to be able to let their kids go to school. We're going to take away that violation of that right to an education. And because we're switching to an agroforestry process, it's more sustainable. We have it shade-grown, less requirement for these monoculture pesticides like Roundup and those things that you hear about that really cause cancers and things like that. So it really helps remove those ethical challenges of a right to a safe workforce.
Yeah, and I mean, clearly as the board, you want to understand how is this going to help the business? What is in it for Lavazza? Obviously, ethics are very important, they align to your goals, but how is this going to make good business sense? And Kaushal, I know you did a lot of work trying to understand that.
Yeah, so I was looking to your business model, and I came to know 93% of your coffee comes from open market source. That means you possess that risk of fluctuating and volatile commodity price fluctuation, and also you lack that traceability till the source. Now you don't know the impact to the farmers from where the coffee is coming to your company, and this is against your value. There are some upcoming legal legislations like EU regulations which require that traceability to the source from where the coffee beans is coming. Our solution, direct contract with the farmers, provide you that traceability and transparency in the whole supply chain. Using that particular story, you can attract more consumer who actually believes in that sustainability, and you can actually increase your market share. And our second pillar of the solution, that is agroforestry, that can reverse some of the harm which is created by the deforestation in the whole coffee industry, and that can resolve your ethical issues as well. So our solution is twofold, and it will generate some financial revenue. So like it will create 26% of the additional net income to your company, along with resolving some of your ethical issues. That is amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, this EU regulation coming is really important to note. I mean, the EU has also recognized the impact of deforestation on not only the environment, but on the individuals who rely on the environment for their livelihoods. In fact, by 2024, which is only a year away, they're going to ban imports of any products that could have contributed to deforestation. That means companies like yourself need to have that information, that traceability, and clear knowledge of where your product is coming from and how it was produced. And without that, you risk losing 80% of your revenues, which is primarily from the EU, and this could have devastating impacts on your business. So I do want to take us to one last point. When we met with you yesterday, you had an interesting idea. You said, maybe Lavazza needs to go further. Maybe we need to control the production of coffee and become completely vertically integrated. And although that is an interesting concept, and we did look into it when we were working through our proposal, we were a little unclear if that was the best ethical direction to take.
Yeah, I mean, we did look at that as one of our alternatives, and from a strictly financial lens, it kind of makes sense. But when you think about the ethical implications of displacing that farmer from his family farm, they've owned that land for multiple generations. They have multiple generations living on that farm. That is their lifeblood. To displace them, you really need to think about the harm we're committing to that farmer and his right to work. And you know, Lavazza, you've got that at those sustainability goals. You want to ensure that you're protecting that farmer to ensure that you are living your sustainability goals.
So in closing, we do appreciate you helping us explain further how we want to resolve our 3 core ethical challenges from the coffee industry. A farmer's ability to have a standard of living, their ability to work in safe conditions, and for access to education for their children. And we do feel that with our 2 pillars, both with the contracts, where we're giving cost certainty to improve their quality of life so that they can focus on farming and their children can go to school, and our second pillar of agroforestry technology, which will help improve the long-term viability of their crops and help them see a future for their families, will help not only the coffee industry or yourselves adapt to the changing environment, but also help these farmers for future generations. Thank you.
All right, last but not least, Greenway Consulting.
Hello. Good morning, or good yesterday. I guess we start. We'll just quickly introduce ourselves and then we'll get started. So my name is Aviva. This is
Kay.
And I'm Shadi. And we're working at Greenway Consulting Group. We're here to be outside consultants to BYD, which is Build Your Dreams. It's an electric vehicle manufacturing company. And as you know, it's a presentation we've been called back to give to you on the ethics component of our solution. So with that, we'll get started. Good morning, board members of BYD, and thank you for having us back today. We are honored to be back. And I must say that I'm inspired by everything your company is doing. And honestly, I'm inspired by the words of your president chairman, Mr. Chuang Fu, who said that BYD strives to continually make contributions to the protection of mankind's common home and the realization of sustainable development. Your commitment to creating these eco-friendly, affordable cars is commendable, and it is with this vision in mind that we have created a strategy for BYD's expansion into the American market. Now, we told you a little bit about our 3-step approach yesterday, but let me introduce it. First, extracting responsibly. Second, expanding sustainably. And first, extracting responsibly. Second, expanding sustainably. And third, embracing recycling. We have designed this approach around UN Sustainable Goal number 12, responsible consumption and production. And we are ensuring that this focus leads to profitability, legal compliance, and most importantly, ethical integrity for your company. As a responsible corporate citizen, we know that BYD's commitment to eco-friendly transportation goes beyond the pages of a CSR report, and we are here to make this happen for you. This is where we step in. We can help BYD translate those words into real actions towards the common good. Now let me have my colleague Tay talk a little bit more about extracting responsibly.
Thank you, Viva. In the avid land of Chile, Chile's indigenous communities lies a pressing issue that cannot be ignored. The very land that sustains the people have been commercialized for a valuable resource, lithium. The consequence of neglect has been dire, leading to an overexploitation of labor and water overexploitation of the resources, and people have been suffering. We suggest a first we suggest a first solution of you, BYD, joining an International Lithium Association, also known as ILEA. This will enable you to promote ESG effort and sustainability in labor practices as well as extracting lithium. Additionally, by being a centerpiece of lithium industry, you'll be able to accelerate and influence other key players and new entrants in the industry to ensure their actions have a positive impact on the community and environment. Secondly, we suggest you to get in a licensing partnership with SQM, which is a Chilean mining company. This plan aims to reduce brine extraction by half by 2030 in the water-scarce Salar de Atacama area by saving around 390 million liters of water annually. The people in the community hasn't had access to fresh water to drink with, as well as to cultivate agriculture. Our solution proposes 94% of recycling of fresh water in the process, as well as eliminating any contamination from chemical byproducts through the adoption of direct lithium extraction technology, and it will ensure that the indigenous communities will not suffer from the hands of lithium mining industry. You may wonder, what are the risks to our plan? There can be geopolitical tension like protests and strikes that can have a negative impact on our operation and supply chain. Additionally, economic downturn and currency risk can impact our revenue and profit as well. However, we believe the environmental, ethical, and financial advantages of our solution outweighs all of these risks. And we strongly believe a successful company needs to have a great balance between profitability and social responsibility. And we are committed to help you achieve that balance. Now we will discuss about expanding sustainably.
Thank you, Tay. So in BYD's 2026 report, they stated that at present, BYD is shifting its business focus from basic capital accumulation and business expansion to meeting the public's yearning for a better future with technological innovation. With this in mind, we recommend BYD to expand their manufacturing plant in Lancaster, California. This recommendation is rooted on our market analysis of a high upcoming demand for electric buses in the United States. We predicted there will be around almost 50,000 buses in the United States by 2013, and BYD will have a share around 47%, which is a high number. And it's also rooted in need to shift from carbon emission heavy roads to the one where our children can breathe a clean air. While this plan will actually reap profit for up to 1.2 billion USD in 2030, this also has large ethical impacts. So if BYD meets the demands, BYD can actually eliminate close to 580,000 cars off the roads, which equals to 36 million of carbon dioxide, more than 200,000 tons of nitrogen oxide, and 7 million pounds of diesel particulate matter. Finally, diesel currently powers more than 90% of school buses in the United States, and its exhaust is linked to serious health and development issues for children. Along with this line, evidence suggests that young generations will actually at a high risk. And let's not forget the long-standing due of discriminatory policies, community of color, people with low income. They're all are the people who bear the most weight of this air pollution. BYD, with their capacity and with this recommendation, will have opportunity to actually take thousands of cars off the roads and contribute to make the US and the world to be more equitable place to live for everyone. However, these efforts are going to be fruitless if the batteries using and the consumption expansion will just simply go to the landfills, which will bring us to our final and last step, embracing recycling.
Thank you, Ciara. Now, BYD's closely held philosophy of technological innovation-motivated philanthropy is one that we at Greenway truly resonate with. Our hope is that by using science and technology to revolutionize BYD's supply chain, the United States will come to recognize BYD as the pioneers in responsible consumption and production. No other competitor right now in the electric bus market actually employs a closed-loop supply chain. So BYD should take this chance to seize this opportunity and rise to the occasion. So what do we recommend? We recommend that BYD incorporates a closed-loop supply chain by having a direct recycling facility within their Lancaster, California plant. This will help them recover scarce minerals like lithium, cobalt, manganese, and will, because of the growing demand of all of these lithium-ion batteries, which are growing the demand for these minerals, it will be a really wise investment in the long term, but also an effective way to keep these batteries outside of landfills. Let's talk a little bit about landfills. So every year in the US, there's an average of 8,300 landfill fires. So this doesn't only cause millions in property damage and civilian injuries, it also actually contributes a lot to greenhouse gas emissions. 11% of all greenhouse gas emissions come from these landfill fires. So our recommendation ensures that we don't contribute to these issues anymore. It ensures a significant reduction in our carbon emissions and also an improvement in overall human health and hazardous substance control, which BYD has stated on their own website they're extremely passionate about. So to conclude, when faced with an ethical dilemma, most companies believe that they have only two choices. They can either choose between their company's success or they can choose what's right for the world. We at Greenway are here to show you that that is not the case. These two are not mutually exclusive. There is a way to do both. At BYD, ethical reasoning and profitability go hand in hand and will be the reason for BYD's success in the American market. Let us show the world that we can increase lithium yield while ensuring that millions of people in Chile can get access to water daily. Let us show the world that we can increase production by 900% in the next decade while reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. Let us show the world that we can earn revenue from cobalt and manganese while making sure we contribute to a cleaner and greener future. Let us show the world that we can build your dreams in every way possible. Thank you.
Who's excited that it's all over now? Well, now it's just kind of some identities off. We aren't in our judge or we aren't in the character roles. But just generally speaking, I'm not going to individually single out any presentation group, but I just wanted to provide some just general feedback. Exceptionally well done. I always think that these 10-minute ones are the hardest because you don't have visual aids. You aren't using anything else. And last time I did a 10-minute anything was my grandmother's eulogy in 2015, and she instructed me, no notes, I want a 10-minute eulogy for my favorite grandson. I was like, oh my God, but I had to do it. But it's like, I feel that memorization, and I think is the more you present to groups, whether it's you're in academia or whether it's with professional groups, you'll learn your own cadence of knowing, okay, my visual aids, if I don't have anything, are going to be my hands, and that like in 1 and the 2 and the 3, and I saw that amongst many of you that you're nodding and you're focused on whoever's the speaker, and that agreement is another visual aid from your cohorts in your group, so that they're with you, and so that the sideliners aren't forced to do maybe that Adam and Eve fig leaf, as I call it, where you're just like, you don't have anything to do, but you're just kind of like, that's right, and you're moving. I know we have parameters here for filming of this, but you'll learn to just kind of like move around and think about it, and based on your audience, if it's board of trustees, it's cherry wood table, and I may not be just like kind of coming over and just like sitting there and like talking to people, and this is more like, the angel investors group, and they're all pitching, and then it's like, okay, yeah, and I'm like super casual, but that, and I felt that like this is tough. You're learning it, and I don't deduct as a judge, like if you need like visual aids as note cards. I think we've all been conditioned by TED Talks of like, oh, everybody's up there, and whether they have that earpiece, like funneling it all in, like how are they delivering all of this? And practice, but it's whatever you practice and what you feel comfortable doing. So I think, a visual aid of a note card really tells your audience, yep, and that's another important point. So you're kind of calling that visual aid in of, and I can't stress enough, so you know it's not just like the crib sheet, but you're kind of acknowledging that's another guest in the room of, this is really important, and as we discussed yesterday, and that's kind of what board meetings are about, just general audience, So this kind of like just my high-level feedback of what I really observed of like what worked really well, knowing the 2 to 3 individuals, using what you can up here, and because Jeff just entered the room, one of his favorite visual aids, whether he wants me to acknowledge it, when, back then, I always notice him here when he's like, little emphasis comes from like the little like sacred club, and he like gives a little shout out, and but I love personalization to visual aids like that. So it's like, it's the Jeffism, if you will, when he's at these.
I didn't know I did that, so thanks for pointing.
Oh, yeah.
It's really important to pay attention to this.
Yeah, it's really important. It's just like, okay, that's an important point at the competition where you're just like, but things like that, where it's just you own it and it's yours. And as I said earlier, it's like, it's tough being in front of large groups of people, whether it's thousands, whether it's your peers, whether it's strangers, and you're like, okay, I'm up here, but when you have that chance and you aren't thinking, okay, they're up here, but what's my next part is this and this, and then I'm gonna like toss to the next person. That was just, but otherwise, I'm not going to give any targeted feedback as we did in the, it's no Q&A, it's not anything that we're critiquing here, but I do think, the 10 minutes it's the toughest part, it really is. So, well done all around. Give yourselves a round of applause.